No need for that. You know, I saw a live autopsy. I think I probably talked about this maybe on the show.
Live
autopsy. I watched it like before my eyes.
From this live studio.
Autopsy live.
I got blood all over my scrubs that I was wearing because we all were made to wear scrubs. It was in my advanced physiology class in high school, and we watched a live autopsy until we were kicked out because it turned into a lawsuit because the guy actually died in the hospital, and turned out that like, he had neck surgery and he wasn't propped up in bed properly, so he aspirated, and they figured that out when they cut into his lungs and they saw all the vomit coming out of it. And then they said, "We got to wrap this up.
I don't know if I could leave." I don't know if I could watch that.
It was really hardcore, really, really hardcore.
What high school are you going to that they're letting you go to?
A sweet one. No, they picked 12 of us in our science class.
We had to kill a hobo and go in the back and
we had three dead bodies. One was fat. We named him Bubba. One was skinny. We named him Willie. And then we had a girl, and I forget what her name was because I don't care about.
I went to school with Skinny Willie, and we never know what happened to him.
I cut off Willie's penis. I cut it off myself.
What?
Pretty sweet.
The hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, you did not.
I swear to God.
Why would they let a high school student?
What the hell?
Why would they let a high school student cut off a penis?
That
makes no sense.
But that's not the point.
No, I don't care about it. All I care about is this story.
Yeah, that's all I care about too. They would not let hey, you want to come over here?
We not only cut
Why are you
off
autopsying penises?
Why would they cut off the penis anyway? If it wasn't just for kicks.
There's vomit in his
fuck?
penis.
You can't just throw it. I cut off a guy's penis because
How do you guys not
now
notice about
I
it?
am disgusted. And I am thoroughly grossed out.
How did you guys? I pulled his brain out. I had to.
What?
They showed me how to. I had to snip.
Who wants to cut
Here's
off
the thing.
penis?
We had a professional come and
This is
cut.
what we do now. Hey, here's some vice grips. Who wants to rip off his nipples? All right, who wants to just poke the
Funny story, actually.
with a needle just
I'm
for
not
kicks?
going to name the kid's name,
All
but
right.
there's 12 of us.
Anybody want to punch him in the head? Well, he's dead. He doesn't feel it.
We spent a lot of time.
Who wants to take out his teeth? Which, by the way,
I'm getting there, Mike. Hold on. I'm right in the. I'm
grossest
going
thing
there.
of all time.
There's 12 of us, and one of the kids in our little program was quite the gangster, and we spent every single day for a full semester.
Who wants to cut
lunch,
off his face and make a lampshade?
After lunch, is what we did was we prepped the bodies for the other advanced physiology class that actually studied it, and we studied it, but to the point where we prepped the bodies for the other class. So we were the advanced,
take off the
and
penis.
then we had to cut it so we could splay it. And we looked at the. Why
didn't you bring this up like 45 minutes ago? Jesus Christ!
This happened in high school. I forget
cut
that it
off
even
a
happened.
guy's.
How do you forget to cut off a dead guy's dick?
Cut off a man's penis.
I don't talk about it.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I would
I still
never
don't
stop
believe it.
talking about the time
swear
I cut off a man's penis.
To God.
How is that
It
not
wasn't
the first,
a man. It was a cadaver.
How is it not the first
Never.
time I ever walked into Love Line to screen call? She said, "Hi, I'm Anderson, and I cut off a guy's
And you
penis
can-
in high
That's
school."
my
And you can
name on the
leave.
Corolla message
You can
boards.
leave.
Or actually, my name is Anderson.
Because if you told me I cut off a man's penis, I would probably be like, "We can't be
once
friends."
cut off a man's penis. That's
Oh
actually
my
my moniker
God.
over there. But no,
Your
so I
moniker?
walked in, and I
What?
almost said the kid's name just now, but I walked in because we got to the point where we were so comfortable with it, and we did it every single, not cut off penis, but we worked on these bodies every single day. And most of it is monotonous, boring, dull work of removing connective tissue.
Unlike the blood pumping thrill of ripping off another man's penis.
Removing blood clots from arteries and
Hey, what kind
removing
of
fat.
Get to the
Scalpels.
cutting off the penis
But
part.
no, listen.
I want the brain scooping too.
I don't even want to hear about the other. I want to hear about you taking the
Listen
guy's
to
penis
this,
in your hand
trust me,
and
Mike,
then
I'm like-
sawing at the base.
There was no sawing. It was a snip. Actually, I pulled, and I flayed.
Oh my God!
With a very, very sharp scalpel. We would go through like 4 or 5 scalpels each every single day. But anyways, I walked in there, and it got to the point where the teacher wasn't even around that much because we were so used to it. And I went in there, and it was like lunch wasn't quite over there, so I got in there a little early. We smelled like formaldehyde that entire semester too. It was awful. And this kid, I almost said his name again. I still. He was on top of, I swear to God, on top of, there was a sheet in between him and the cadaver, and he had pliers inside the cadaver's mouth, and he was ripping at it very violently. And I totally startled him, and he looked up, and he goes, "Oh, it's just you." And I'm like, "What do you mean just me? What are you doing?" He's like, "Gold tooth. Gold tooth." He was trying to
This story
rip
gets
gold
worse
tooth.
and worse
You're
every
getting
friggin'
those in
moment.
and get
He
some
was ripping
shovels.
gold, and I said,
Okay,
"I
there
want
was a-
nothing to do with it." And I was offended that he thought I'd be cool with it.
In the
And I
early
walked
in the
out.
early 90s, there was a major case of these two guys that owned a mortuary that were taking out all the gold teeth and stuff, and they called it popping chops and making the pliers sing.
That's a creative writer.
Yeah,
They're the ones that called it that?
yeah, they did.
Oh,
It
you know
was
they're
the two
meth
guys.
heads doing it.
And
taking a buck.
everybody that was going into the crematorium, they would rip all the teeth out, and they would cut off rings that were left on with
While it is
pliers.
macabre, and pretty terrible and disrespectful. I can't really blame him because I think it's just as disrespectful.
I gotta be honest with you.
To
I don't
put it in
care.
the ground and let it just.
I've
rot
made a
and
lot of
waste.
mistakes in my life,
You know how many starving people
and
there are out
I have
there?
a lot of regrets. But I don't know. I'm overwhelmed and grossed out by the fact that you walked in on a dude ripping out someone's teeth and you just blew that off. But even
Then you
We're all
snipped
really
penis.
close.
is
We're
that
all-
you
and he was
snipped
a
off
gangster.
a man's penis.
Yeah,
How big was it?
It was quite
Girthy?
shriveled and small.
Ooh,
Oh.
gross.
Here's the weirdest
So it's like
part.
he just got to have a nice dip in the lake, and you're like, snip!
What it tastes like?
And then
Trying
I got to the point
trying to
where
trick him.
they just looked like animals. I mean, not animals. They looked like pieces of meat. And I would go to the beach. I remember I went to the beach while I was still in that class, and all the old people at the beach with their shirts off reminded me of the cadavers that I was working on.
Wait,
I'd
tell
be
me
like,
about
oh, that looks
scooping
like a cadaver.
brains out.
No, let's go back to the penis. You cut off a man's penis.
Dude, what? How far can you go?
What if he came back to life?
Because we cut off a lot of.
Tyler believes in miracles.
Yeah.
So we had a professional. The one
And he
day we
said,
had
you dick.
a professional come to our class,
Literally.
and he had a power saw, and he was the
prostitute?
one, a professional. I guess he was a doctor, and
carpenter?
he used the power saw.
I guess he was a doctor, the guy that split open a dude's skull.
He didn't split it open; he sawed it open.
This was,
took
we
off
should
the
have done
skull
the
cap.
podcast from there because this is way better than Skid Row.
He took off the skull cap, and then they needed a volunteer, and of course, I was the first
Skull
one there.
cap, he was a Jew?
I'll tell this more. You know what? I'll continue the story later when you guys are less frisky.
Later? The show's
Yeah.
going to be over.
Next
know,
week,
I gotta-
I'll tell
you
it.
gotta-
I'll continue.
One question.
Wait, so
One question.
you took his
Do
penis?
you want to hear about penis
Did
cutting?
you take his penis in your left? Did you hold it by the head and stretch it out to get it all?
I'm just wondering what you actually did with them.
Were you wearing gloves?
Did it go boing when it snapped back?
We had bags where we kept all the connective tissue, all the
Ew, my
fat.
God.
The big guy had like just pounds and pounds of fat.
Can you
that we
imagine
had
the
to
poor
take out.
homeless guy that went dumpster diving and ended up in
Found a
piles
bag
of
of
people's
connective
connective tissue?
tissue.
When
Yeah.
we're done with them,
Yeah.
they burn them.
I
okay?
think. The guy who I think was a doctor maybe burned
Imagine the
them.
guy. Imagine
The
the guy
whole
that goes
point
to
of
the
me bringing this up
barbecue.
is you were talking about the scissors that cost $400 or $500, ridiculous for
Yeah.
people that cut hair. The doctor, I noticed when I was watching the live autopsy of the dead guy, when he was cutting through the sternum, he was using. They were obviously garden shears. They were
Fiskars or something,
what's that?
like the orange ones, the Fiskars.
Yeah, the kind that you can go down and buy for like $19.99 or whatever.
Maybe for an autopsy, it's not as important as having the sterilized stainless.
Well, that's for sure true. That's absolutely true. But I asked him about that, and he said that they have really expensive versions of what he uses, but they don't work as well, and they cost like 10 times as much. So they just usually on the autopsies they use a lot of garden.
Hey,
gardening.
you know how they?
You guys freak out? You know what? All dentists work on human heads. A lot of the time they're severed.
Okay, not only am I freaked out,
Yeah.
not only am I freaked out, but I'm going to be freaked out for probably 10 years.
Where's the place where they keep the severed dentist heads?
Ooh,
I don't know. I saw a movie too where that happened. But yeah, dentists. If you're a dentist, call in.
Abby Normal.
All right. So what was your last question about? Where is the penis kept? See,
I'm just wondering if you just saved them or whether they were thrown away or whether...
Well, I graduated later that year, and I know that those cadavers went on to the next class, and they were used at least for a few more years, I think. So I don't know ultimately what happened.
One cadaver gets used for years?
Dude, they're expensive. Actually, I went down to San Diego, UC San Diego, where we got to pick our
We got them
cadavers
from
out.
Tijuana. They're
We got to
cheaper.
pick them out. It was pretty awesome.
Story sounds like a
Dude,
lie.
we
now.
barely got to cut open rats, which I licked the heart of one, and I got like $25.
I thought he was going to say detention because the teacher.
School give you $25.
Yeah, no, my,
For licking
my
the heart of a
dumbass-
rat?
Oh no, I licked its face. My friend was going to eat the heart.
Hey, you know what the story? When this story started, when you said there's this kid, and you said this kid a couple of times, it reminded me of what's that Stephen King movie, Stand by Me? They're like, there's this kid,
Leech?
down by the river.
The dead kid down by the river.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great movie. What a
Yeah,
great,
especially when
film.
Corey Feldman gets a leech on his dick.
Did you see
I
the
like
Family Guy
then
episode
you
where
cut
they
it off.
where they did that?
that. No, because I don't watch Family Guy. Because you know why? That's all they do is they do alternate versions of things that we remember from
But it's
childhood.
very entertaining.
And it's hilarious.
And I get
I
so,
remember that. There's no seats.
Kidding,
Should I
everybody.
tell the brain scooping and the eyeball story before we're
Yes,
done, so I can be done with
please, thank God.
the hacking?
Well, I know the
Scooping,
eyeball one. You
scooping
held the
the
nose closed,
brains.
you breathed into the mouth, and the eyes popped out. Right? That's how it works.
Ooh.
Show a little respect, Tyler. They donated their bodies to science.
Do you have to like put your mouth on the penis and fill it full of air so you make sure you get it all? When
And I had a
snip it?
huge crush on one of the girls in there. That was kind of weird.
Was she dead? Ice cold boobies.
Yeah, you need to clarify that they're living or not when you're talking about human autopsies.
It'd be so great if one of my classmates heard this and they were just disgusted and angered.
And they said this never happened. Anderson never cut off a dick.
I swear to God.
Does Drew know you've cut off a dick?
Court England.
I bet he
used to
hasn't
call
cut off
the
a
show.
dick.
Court England. If anyone knows Court England, look for Court England.
I bet
Ask
Dr.
him.
Drew has not.
Is that the
cut off
guy's
a
name
penis.
you almost said 30 times and now you just said it?
Court
I'm
England was
gonna ask every
hilarious. He was
doctor
in my
I know.
class, and I had a leather jacket because I was cool, and it had a panther painted on the back of it because my buddy painted a panther on it. And Court used to make fun of me. He's like, "You're so cool." He's like, "I want to get a." Court was kind of a tall, lanky, nerdy guy, but hilarious and awesome.
So like me, except for the nerdy part.
Yeah, well, a little less nerdy. And he's like, "I'm gonna get a leather jacket one day, and I'm gonna have a giraffe painted on the back of mine." And
Did
I
you
thought
cut
that
off
was
his
the
penis?
Funniest thing ever.
Someone in the chat room suggests that right before you die, write in Sharpie, "Don't cut off my dick, asshole," on your chest.
Don't let
We cut it off in
Don't
the
let
name
a
of
high
science,
school
you
kid
fucks.
cut off my wiener.
Michael D, thank you very much.
Hey,
for
how
the
do I
link
get to the other
comment.
comments? Because it said like 23 comments.
You got to go in the
It's like
message
eight.
board.
I don't know where that is.
You click on the word that says message board. Go to blog comments. Anyways, tell me about the
Do I have
eyes
to
and the
sign
brain.
up for something.
He does look like Johnny Cocker.
Did you use a ice cream scoop?
No. So the guy came and cut off the skull cap, and then he said we need to take the brain out now. And there was a lot of instruction on how to get your hands into the head and around the brain, and then you had to sever it from the brain stem from within because you kind of do Dr. Kermit style and just cut with scissors in the back of the neck.
Nope.
We treated these cadavers with the utmost
I'm
respect.
glad you
and
gave
we
him
were
the
very-
respect of calling him a doctor.
We
though.
were, he's not a doctor.
I know, but still.
We were very careful, so we wanted to keep the neck intact, and the muscles there. So you had to put your hands in and then sever with your fingers, like your cutting fingers, like I'm doing the peace sign. And then he showed me, and it was very stressful. And I got,
It's that weak?
and I didn't want to. Yeah, I kind of tore it and
Like
twisted.
the cerebral cortex?
Yeah, and pulled it out, and then the brain kind of just scooped out. And then the other thing was the eye. We had to
Wait,
take the eye
so
out.
it's not sticking in there?
I imagine that the guy goes, "Who wants to pull out the brain?" And Anderson's in the back room and pushes over aside.
There's only 12 of us, and I didn't use that voice.
And he puts his
So
golden lock to the
honestly, you
side.
don't use a tool. You
I
just scoop your hand in there and you rip it with your fingers.
Once the skull cap, the top of the skull cap comes off, yeah, there was like the sack around the brain.
So the brain
I used
is.
to know the names of all these things too.
So there's no.
Why
so
don't you just
it's
turn them upside
basically-
down and it drops out like a goodie bag?
Which I already knew this, but
It just dangles and
but
then you
there's
cut
no
it?
residue holding it in.
There was some
Like
fluid,
it's not
but I mean,
sticky though, right?
I mean, they're drained of all their blood, and and then there's more fluids
What's the
that are pumped
temperature
into
like?
them. We kept them in the cabinet in the back of the room,
What the?
which wasn't really even
Story
regulated.
just doesn't makes no sense.
We kept them in the.
There's no
Wait,
question.
wait.
Here's
is
the
this-
creepy part. Like
Did
I
you sew
okay,
any ass to mouth?
I had no, this was before that great movie. I had a set of bed sheets, and they're like rainbow colored kind of, and one fitted my mattress, and then the other one's
The other fitted your cadaver.
The other one's the unfitted kind, just the sheet. So I donated that to the class. I'm like, we can keep the cadaver because we needed something underneath the cadavers. And they're in level. They're
Cut
like
to
in
there's
levels.
brains rolling down your Star Wars sheets.
And yeah, there was pretty much there was fluids definitely leaking from them onto those sheets, and we used to use that to pull them out of the. And it was like a 4-man
What kind of
job
low
to pull
budget
them out.
class is this?
When
Does
did you go
anybody
to
have
high
any-
school?
I
does
graduated in
anybody have
'92.
Any sheets to donate?
I graduated 2 years before Mike went to Wilton.
So in the early
'90s,
'90s, there were just creepy science classrooms with
There was
rotting
very
bodies.
few we were very advanced when we were very cutting edge. I think there's
I
more
get
high
it,
schools
cutting
now.
edge, cutting penis edges.
So
God.
every time I get in bed, I'd
I'm
always
afraid
think
to fall asleep near you because you might hack off
when
my
those
penis.
when those sheets were
Acid
on my bed,
flashback.
like during that time period, I would think of the cadavers and how they were laying
took
on the
them
same
back?
pattern. No, because I kept the fitted
Oh.
ones and I gave them the ones that don't. Who uses that top sheet? But
I do.
anyways,
So what was the temperature of the brains? Even though it's kept in a cabinet.
No, it's not really a matter. Once they're embalmed, you don't really have to worry about temperature so much. I mean,
No,
there-
I mean
you
when
shouldn't
you
be like in a-
stuck your
in a
hands in
warm
there,
room.
was it cold?
I had latex gloves on, obviously,
But you
Mike,
still
and
could
it was
feel the
more
temperature.
It was like Luke. I mean, they weren't cold when we were working on them because they were so heavily embalmed with the fluids and whatnot and formaldehyde. And it was cool because there was different colors of fluids that they put into them. We saw the whole embalming process too, which was really cool. But anyways,
Sounds like bomb.
Tyler, you ruined radio. When I did my favorite story is not even the penis cutting off because that just kind of happened real quick and it was like, oh my god, I did that. But the eyeball. So I
did it with your mouth.
I removed an eyeball and I had to get to the lens, which was really cool. And I remember there was pressure and there was fluid inside the eyeball, obviously, and I was holding it away from me, and I was like doing it at an angle and cutting with the what do you call it?
Scalpel.
The scalpel. Thank you. Away from me, and it squirted of course, right where I was holding my head as far away from it as possible, it squirted right into my hair. So I had human eye fluid in my hair for the rest of the day because I couldn't
grossest show
shower.
of all time.
I couldn't shower, but then it was really cool when we got to the lenses. I mean, they look like little river rocks.
Did you put them in your eyes to see if you could see better?
we didn't put them in our eyes, but we looked through them and you couldn't see shit.
How many people
Can
touched
you
the
use
penis?
human
All 12
lenses as
How
contact
many
lenses?
people touched the penis?
All 12 of us, 13 including the professor.
You played hot penis and threw it
It's
around?
not even a penis at that point. You're just looking at reproductive
That's a
Oh,
organs.
it's a penis.
It's a penis.
because it's not connected to a
I
living
think that- yeah.
organism.
See, you
It's a
guys,
penis.
we were more mature than.
If somebody throws
are
that
now.
penis at me, I'm going to scream like a little girl.